Welcome to Liagle Tapeless Drywall Finishing. Today I'm going to start a basement project. So let's take a look first. Okay, while you take a look on the walls and the joints, I'm going to talk about why drywall joint crack and how to prevent it, and how Liagle Tapeless Drywall Finishing works. Okay, first, let's talk about why drywall joint cracks. Generally speaking, drywall cracks because there are stresses on the walls. So the building shifting, temperature and moisture changes cause expanding and contracting. Even wind blow on houses cause structural movement. They all cause stress on the walls. So when the joints are not strong enough to resist this stress, crack happens. Cracks often happens above window and doors. Those areas are high stress area. I've been in the drywall finishing business for 20 years. In the past years, I fixed a lot of cracks above windows and doors. So to prevent crack happening, the first step is to install the drywall sheets properly. First, try your best to avoid to have joints above doors and windows. As you can see on this project, we have joints above doors and windows. Almost every doors and windows we have joints right above it. Some of them right at the corner of the windows and doors. So we have a very good chance to have a crack if the house is shifting. Another high stress area is around the supporting walls. Especially you put a joint right at the corner of supporting walls, you have a very good chance to have crack. So to install the drywall properly is very important to prevent drywall joint crack later on. When I take a new project, I always check every joint, especially those high stress areas like above windows and doors, and especially the corner of supporting walls. I'll do whatever I can to prevent the crack happen later on. You know, when crack happens, the first person to blame is the taper. Actually, sometimes it's not fair, but so anyway, being tapers, we got to pay extra attention to the areas where cracks happen more often than other areas. Okay, now let me talk about taping issues that cause joint crack. Almost 100% of the cracks that I fixed in the past, when I cut the joint open, what I found was there was no mud in the joint behind the tape. That means that when the taper finished the joint, they didn't V-cut the joint, they didn't do pre-fill. Let's take a look. This is a butt joint. You can see there's no mud in the joint. only a very thin layer of mud behind the tape. Almost 100% of the cracks that I fixed in the past years were like this. So they didn't V-cut the butt joint, they didn't do pre-fill, and that was why the joint cracked later on. For some reasons, nowadays, some tapers, they just skip the process of V-cut the butt joint, especially they skip the process of pre-fill. Without pre-fill, there is no mud left in the gap, especially when tapers using bazooka or banjo box to apply the tape on the joint. So only a very thin layer of mud behind the tape, because the joint was not filled by the mud, so the joint was very weak. When the stress comes, it cracks. So there are two common reasons for drywall joint crack. First, poor workmanship of drywall installation. The drywall sheets were not installed properly. That's the first important reason for drywall joint cracks. Second is the taping issue. So tapers didn't cut the butt joint, didn't V-groove cutting the butt joint, and didn't do pre-fill, didn't pre-fill the gaps, didn't pre-fill the joints before they apply the tape. That was the most important reason on the taper side for drywall joint cracks. Okay, now let me talk about how Liagle tapeless drywall finishing works. Taping is the most time-consuming process of drywall finishing, and you cannot skip the taping process because the joints are going to crack without tape. I think that was why some tapers, they skip V-cut the butt joint, and they skip pre-fill the joint before they apply the tape, because the tape can just cover it and you cannot tell the difference. Also, drywall taping can be pretty challenging for homeowners and DIYers. It takes some practice to master this technique. So, is there an alternative way of finishing the drywall? Or, in the other word, can we finish drywall joint without tape? I actually started to think about that not long after I got in the drywall finishing business 20 years ago. I used to be a mining engineer back in China. So I believe there must be a better solution for anything, and that's what we engineers are for in this world. So I started to do some research about building materials. First, I found it's pretty interesting. The ancient Chinese and Egyptians, they mix straw in clay to build those mud houses. And what really inspired me was how people built interior walls before drywall was widely used in the construction. People used wood lath and horsehair plaster to build interior walls. So I started to believe fiber reinforcement is a solution for tapeless drywall finishing. Instead of using tape to apply on the drywall joints, I mix fiber in the taping mud and apply the mud directly to the joint. The fiber reinforced taping mud filled in the joint, so it's like the two pieces of drywall is welded into one piece by the tapeless mud. So the joint is as strong as drywall sheet itself. I did my garage in the year 2009 with hot mud plus fiber. It's been 11 years and there's no cracks, no issue so far. After more than 10 years of experiment and practice, now I developed a product called Tape in Mud. It's a combination of fibers. You can just mix the fiber with either hot mud or pre-mixed taping mud. So you can just apply the tapeless mud directly to the joint. So finishing drywall joints without tape. On this project, I'm using taping mud mixed with regular pre-mixed taping mud to do the taping process. So one advantage about the pre-mixed tapeless mud is I can use tubes and box and get the job done really fast. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the process of tapeless drywall finishing. So first, we prepare the joints for tapeless mudding. First, we cut the butt joint. There are two reasons for cut the butt joint. First, by cutting the butt joint open so the mud can get in the gaps, get in the joint easily, so the joint can be fully filled. The second reason for V-cut is by V-cut the butt joint, so we have a larger area, larger surface area for the mud to bend on, which can increase the strength of the joint. For inside corners, we usually only cut the inside corners with a rough edge. So when the edge is rough, the knife is going to be bumpy on the joint. So we cut the rough edges of the inside corner. Also, those damaged areas, damaged spot need to be cut off. So the wall preparation is pretty simple and easy. So after the walls are prepared, it's ready for tapeless mudding. So on this project, I'm using pre-mixed taping mud with fibres. So the mixing ratio is 2 bags of taping mud mixed with 1 box of pre-mixed taping mud. So add water gradually, so make the consistency the way that is easy to work with. As you already watched, we do the butt joint first. So as long as you can handle a knife, just fill the butt joints up. For the inside corners, we only fill the gap. So usually the gap is on one side of the corner. So we only finish one side of the corner. So I can use tubes which can get the corners done really fast. And for flat joint, I can use a box to apply the mud, and then use a 10-inch knife to clean it up, to feather the edges, so make it really smooth and make sure the mud get in the gap of the flat joint. For me, I prefer to use trowel to do the flat joint. I feel to use the trowel can make the joint really clean and smooth, and it is fast as well. You take a look on this flat joint. I don't think we have enough screw on this joint, but I didn't bother to put more screw on because I'm very confident about this tapeless mud. So the joint is going to be welded anyway. I usually use hot mud with mesh tape to fix a big gap like this. But this time I'm using the pre-mixed tapeless mud to fix this gap, which is about 3/4 of an inch. It's a pretty big gap. So I'll show you how it looks like when it's dried. So for mudding the inside 45 corners, so we just apply the mud on the side with the gap. And I don't bother to install a inside 45 corner beads on those corners. It's not necessary. The challenging part is to make the line really straight and clear, but after a little bit practice, so you can tell I'm doing pretty good with a 6-inch knife. Actually, we don't need to pay very much attention on the mud on the other side of the corner. You know, when the joint is dried, it's easy to take off by knife. Just scrape with a knife, or slightly sand it can take the mud off the other side. But I want the joint to be perfect, so it takes more time and more effort to make it looks better. But I always like things look better. Always want things to be perfect. For fixing the damaged spots like electrical boxes, we don't need to install any tape, just the tapeless mud. So just fill it. On this big gap, I was kind of surprised the tapeless mud can work so well. So you can tell the mud just stayed in the big hole, and it didn't second. So I'll show you how it looks like when it is dried later on. So usually I use hot mud to fix a big hole like this, but this time I'm tired of hot mud and I want to try have good. The premix mud is good for fixing those big holes. It performed better than I expected. This is how it looks like the next day. So the hole is still a little bit soft, but it works pretty good. So on this big gap, we can see a little bit hairline cracks, but it's okay. So I'm sure it's not going to crack after another 2 coats. So this is a butt joint dried, so it shrinks a little. So it's only the first coat. We are going to do tapeless mudding for 2 coats. So this is how the joints looks like when it is dried. So this is the first coat, and I'm going to show you how I do a basement from start to finish. So I'm going to do the next coat with tapeless mud. So just enjoy the Chinese music and take a look on how the joints looks like. Thank you for watching. For more information, you can visit our website at www.liagle.ca. Thank you for watching. Thanks.
想喝点酒，就算是没有他，那也得喝2两。大碗茶，大碗的酒，左邻右舍在两旁，五回首666，笑声满堂啊！嘿嘿呦，我妈妈从小嗓门就亮啊。每天他唱着山歌去学堂，只唱着老大爷放下了他的大烟袋，只唱着小伙子更是思念他的姑娘，只唱着老大娘放下针线听一段，只唱着大姑娘眼泪汪汪啊，忘记了洗衣裳啊，哎哎哎。有点北大仓，俄罗斯的姑娘美，嫁到沈阳。嗨嗨嗨，笑。嘿嘿呦，我的家在东北，松花江上啊。那里有满山遍野大豆高粱，在那金山绿水旁，大兴油田北大仓啊，俄罗斯的姑娘美，嫁到沈阳啊，哎嗨呦。我爸爸有事儿没事儿就想喝点酒，就算是没 西上啊，我的家在东北，我的家在东北，松花江上啊，那里有满山遍野大豆高粱，在那青山绿水旁，大庆油田北大仓，俄罗斯的姑娘美，嫁到沈阳。呀！
我的家在东北，松花江上啊，那里有满山遍野大豆高粱，在那青山绿水旁，门前两棵大白杨，齐整整的篱笆院儿，一间小草房啊，呀！我爸爸有事儿没事儿总爱喝点酒，就算是没有菜，那也得喝2两。大碗茶，大碗酒，左邻右舍在两旁，五魁首666，笑声满堂啊！呀！我妈妈从小嗓门儿就亮啊，每天她唱着山歌去学唱，职场的老大爷放声擦地大眼泪，职场的小伙子大着思念他的姑娘，职场的老大娘发着针线金地瓜，职场的大姑娘眼泪汪汪啊，忘记了西山正月也是里儿啊，正月里初3岁啊，社里头放年假，咱们两个去串门儿啊。转回身来叫了一声朋呀，你过来有点事儿，你听那外边没有风声啊，咱们2个人抱着孩子去串门儿，当天去那个单头门儿啊。